sneer sliced through the buzz of Lyciel, Manhattan's temple of wealth, where chandeliers gleamed like diamond rain, and the air hummed with truffle oil and arrogance. "Don't spill the Bordeaux, sweetheart. You couldn't afford it." Richard Vance, a hedge fund titan in a tailored suit, tossed the jab from the VIP table with a smirk. To the elite dining here, Anna Carter was invisible. A waitress in a plain black uniform, slightly wrinkled, her dark hair in a no-frills ponytail. No makeup, no flash, just a quiet beauty that didn't beg for notice. At 25, her hazel eyes cut through the room, seeing everything, revealing nothing. Lyciel wasn't just a restaurant. It was a stage for the ultra-rich, where laughter and clinking glasses were a flex of power. Anna didn't belong in their eyes. Her scuffed flats and lack of polish screamed outsider. They didn't know she'd been raised in their world, born to a family that owned half the city's skyline, taught to carry herself with quiet dignity. But Anna had ditched that life for one of her own making, trading penthouses for late shifts and simplicity over status. 7 months at Lyciel, she endured the brutal customers for the tips, moving through their barbs with a calm forged in a past they'd never imagined. Navy Special Forces, where hesitation meant death, not just embarrassment. That night, the air felt thick, like a storm brewing under the jazz notes. The VIP table was louder than usual. Richard, mid-50s with slicked-back gray hair and a Rolex that flashed with every gesture, held court. His wife, Candace, in a tight red dress, wielded her glossy smile like a blade. Across from them, Derek, a crypto bro with a fake tan, and his girlfriend Lauren, dripping in new money diamonds, laughed too loudly, itching to put someone in their place. Anna was their target, her silence an invitation for their cruelty. She glided through the room, tray steady, face blank, but her eyes caught every detail. The way Richard's hand lingered on his wine glass, Candace's sharp glance at her approach. Then it happened. 3 armed robbers crashed through the doors, guns raised, shouting for wallets and watches. The room froze, patrons diving under tables, their wealth useless now, except Anna. In 15 seconds, she was a blur of precision, disarming the first, dropping the second with a strike to the throat, and pinning the third to the floor with a knee to his spine. The room went silent, the elite staring, their judgment exposed like a raw nerve. Richard's smirk was gone, replaced by shock. Candace's glossy lips parted, wordless. Derek and Lauren gaped, their bravado shattered. Anna stood calm as stone, her past laid bare. A warrior in a waitress's uniform. The billionaire in the corner, who'd barely glanced at her before, now couldn't look away. Anna Carter, the shadow they'd mocked, was the only one who'd stood tall when their gilded world crumbled. Anna didn't linger in the stunned silence. She stepped over the unconscious robber at her feet, her movements as deliberate as ever, and grabbed a stack of napkins from a nearby table. One of the robbers groaned, stirring, and she crouched briefly, securing his wrists with a zip tie she'd pulled from her apron pocket, a habit from her past life she hadn't quite shaken. The other 2 were out cold, their guns now tucked safely in the waistband of her black slacks, hidden under her apron. The room watched, breathless, as if waiting for her to explain herself. She didn't. "Call 911, she said to the bartender, her voice steady but low, like she was asking for a refill order. The bartender, a lanky guy named Mike who usually flirted with the hostesses, fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. Anna turned to the patrons, still crouched under tables or pressed against walls, their faces a mix of awe and fear. "Stay put until the police get here," she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Richard Vance, his Rolex now seeming more like a shackle than a status symbol, cleared his throat, trying to reclaim some authority. How did you?" he started, but his voice faltered under her gaze. Those hazel eyes, usually soft and unassuming, now pinned him like a spotlight. He shrank back, his question unanswered. Candace, clutching her designer clutch like a lifeline, whispered to Lauren, "Who is she?" Lauren, her diamond earrings catching the chandelier light, just shook her head, her usual smugness replaced by something like respect. Derek, for once, had nothing to say, his tan looking a shade paler. Anna ignored them all, moving to the front doors to check the street outside. The robbers had come in bold, No masks, no plan for escape, just desperate or stupid, she couldn't tell yet. Her training kicked in, scanning for accomplices, exits, anything out of place. Lucille's opulent interior felt like a cage now, all glass and gold. No cover. She didn't like it, but she'd worked with worse. The wail of sirens cut through the night, red and blue lights flashing through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Anna stepped back as cops poured in, guns drawn, shouting commands. She raised her hands, slow and deliberate, and nodded toward the robbers. 3 down, disarmed. Weapons are secure, she said, her voice calm but clipped, like she was debriefing a mission. The lead officer, a grizzled guy with a buzz cut and a badge that read Sergeant Malone, sized her up. "You did this?" he asked, glancing at the scene. 3 armed men neutralized. No shots fired, no hostages hurt. Anna nodded once. "Yes, sir." Malone's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of respect. "Military?" "Something like that," she said, not elaborating. She handed over the guns, grip first, and stepped back, letting the cops take over. They cuffed the robbers who were starting to come to, groaning about their busted noses and bruised egos. The patrons began to stir, whispering, some pulling out their phones to record the aftermath, already spinning their own versions of the story for social media. Anna slipped back to the bar, grabbing a glass of water. Mike, still shaken, slid a bottle of top-shelf whiskey her way. "On the house," he muttered. She shook her head, sticking to the water. She didn't drink on the job. Not this job, not her old one. The billionaire in the corner, a quiet man named Edward Langston who'd made his fortune in tech, approached her cautiously. Unlike the VIP table, he'd never sneered or mocked her. He was older, maybe 60, with sharp blue eyes and a demeanor that suggested he'd seen more than he let on. "You're not just a waitress," he said, more statement than question. Anna met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "I'm whatever the job needs me to be," she said, taking a sip of water. Langston studied her like he was piecing together a puzzle. "I could use someone like you," he said, his voice low. "Not here, somewhere bigger." Anna set the glass down, her fingers brushing the rim. She'd heard offers like this before, back when she was still in the family fold, when her parents tried to pull her into their world of boardrooms and power plays. She'd walked away then, and she wasn't sure she wanted to step back into anything like it now. "I'm good here," she said, her tone polite but final. Langston nodded like he'd expected that answer. "If you change your mind," he said, sliding a business card across the bar, "call me." She didn't touch the card, just gave him a small nod and turned to help Mike clear a spilled tray. The cops were wrapping up, taking statements from the patrons who were now eager to talk, their fear replaced by the thrill of a story they could dine out on for months. Richard Vance was already spinning a tale to a young officer about how he'd kept calm during the chaos, conveniently leaving out how he ducked under the table faster than anyone. Anna worked quietly, her mind already moving past the night. She'd done what needed doing, no more, no less. But as she wiped down a table, she felt the weight of eyes on her. Patrons, co-workers, even the cops. The shadow they'd ignored was now the center of their story, and she wasn't sure she liked it. Outside, the city hummed on, oblivious to the drama in Lucille's gilded walls. Anna glanced at the clock. Her shift was almost over. She'd go home to her small Brooklyn apartment, feed her cat, and sleep until her next shift. But something told her this wasn't the end. Not of the night, not of the attention, and maybe not of the life she'd tried so hard to leave behind. As the cops wrapped up their statements and the last of the patrons filtered out, some shaking Anna's hand awkwardly, others avoiding her eyes like she'd seen too much, she clocked out in the back room. Mike, the bartender, lingered by the lockers, his usual easy grin replaced by wide-eyed admiration. "That was some Rambo shit, Anna. You okay?" She shrugged, slipping into her worn leather jacket. "Just another Tuesday." It wasn't, but admitting otherwise would crack the wall she'd built around her past. 7 years in the Navy SEALs. Yeah, she was one of the first women to make it through that hell, had taught her to compartmentalize. The adrenaline rush from the takedown was fading, leaving her with the familiar ache in her shoulders from old injuries. She grabbed her backpack, nodded to Mike, and pushed through the employee exit into the crisp Manhattan night. The city was alive, taxis honking, late-night crowds spilling from bars, oblivious to the chaos that had unfolded inside Lucille. Anna walked the few blocks to the subway subway, her scuffed flat silent on the sidewalk. She kept her head down, but her senses were on high alert. Old habits die hard. A news van was parked outside the restaurant. A reporter chattering into a camera about a heroic waitress foiling an armed robbery at one of the city's most exclusive spots. Anna quickened her pace. The last thing she needed was her face on the 11 o'clock news. By the time she reached her one-bedroom in Brooklyn, the first hints of dawn were creeping over the skyline. Her apartment was sparse. White walls, a second-hand couch, a kitchenette with a single mug in the sink. No photos, no knickknacks, just essentials. Her cat, a scruffy tabby named Scout, greeted her with a meow and a headbutt to her leg. Anna scooped him up, scratching his ears as she filled his bowl. "Miss me, buddy?" Scout purred, unbothered by the bloodstains on her uniform pants. She'd have to soak those later. She collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling fan whirring lazily. Sleep came in fits, haunted by flashes. The robber's wild eyes, the VIP table's sneers, Langston's business card still untouched on the bar back at Lysiel. She'd left it there on purpose, but his words echoed. Somewhere bigger. What did that even mean? Private security, corporate espionage. She'd left the SEALs to escape that world. The endless ops, the moral gray areas, the loss. Her team's last mission in the Afghan mountains had cost her too much. Friends gone, a bullet scar on her thigh, and a discharge she didn't fight. Civilian life was supposed to be simple. Waitressing, anonymity, control. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. The message was from a crisp-voiced woman. "Ms. Carter, this is Elena from Channel 5 News. We'd love to interview you about tonight's events at Lysiel. Hero stories like yours inspire." Anna deleted it mid-sentence, but the calls kept coming. Reporters, a podcaster, even a producer from some reality show about everyday heroes. By morning, her name was trending on social media. Clips from patrons' phones showing her takedown, grainy but unmistakable. Lysiel hero, great. So much for laying low. She brewed coffee, black and strong, and scrolled through the posts on her laptop. Most were praising her, calling her a badass, but a few dug deeper. Wait, is that Anna Carter? As in, Carter Industries heiress. Her family's name popped up in the comments. Old society pages, photos from galas she'd attended as a teen. Stiff in designer gowns next to her parents. She'd cut ties at 18, enlisting to forge her own path, but the internet never forgets. A knock at the door jolted her. Scout hissed, fur puffing up. Anna approached quietly, peering through the peephole. A man in a suit, mid-40s, clean-shaven, with the build of someone who hit the gym, but not the field. Not a reporter, too polished. "Who is it?" she called, hand on the deadbolt. "Miss Carter? Edward Langston sent me. Name's Harlan Reed. He thought you might need some assistance with the fallout." Anna opened the door a crack, chain still latched. "I don't need assistance." Reed smiled, unfazed. "Mr. Langston disagrees. The robbers, they weren't random. Tied to a crew, hitting high-end spots across the city. Pros, but sloppy tonight. And now, with your face out there." He glanced down the hall as if expecting shadows. "He wants to talk, off the record. His car's downstairs." Anna weighed it. Her quiet life was unraveling fast. Reporters camping out, her past exposed, and if these robbers had friends. She unlatched the chain. 5 minutes, that's all he gets. Reed nodded. That's all he'll need. Downstairs, a black SUV idled at the curb, tinted windows hiding the interior. Anna slid into the back, finding Langston waiting, his sharp blue eyes assessing her. "Ms. Carter," he said, extending a hand. "I see you've become an overnight sensation." She ignored the hand. "What do you want, Mr. Langston?" He leaned back, the car pulling away smoothly. "Straight to it. I like that. Those robbers, part of a bigger play. My company's been targeted. Cyber hacks, now physical threats. I need someone who can handle both worlds, the shadows and the boardrooms. Someone like you." Anna crossed her arms. "I'm out of that game." "Are you?" He pulled up a tablet showing a news alert. "Carter, heiress turns vigilante. Family reacts." Her parents' statement. "We're proud, but concerned for her safety." She felt a twist in her gut. Pride from them. This changes nothing. Langston set the tablet down. "It changes everything. They're coming for you now, whether you want it or not. Join me and I'll give you the tools to fight back on your terms. Resources, intel, a team. Or go back to pouring Bordeaux for ingrates like Vance." The the SUV glided through traffic, the city blurring outside. Anna stared at the passing buildings, her family's towers looming in the distance. Simplicity had been her armor, but it was cracking. Maybe it was time to suit up again, not for duty, not for family, but for herself. Fine, she said finally, but my rules, no boardrooms, no spotlights. Langston smiled faintly. Deal. As the car turned toward Midtown, Anna felt the pull of her old life, sharper than any robber's gun. The game was on, and this time, she wasn't just surviving, she was playing to win. The SUV hummed through Midtown's morning rush, the kind where suits dodged cyclists and coffee carts steamed on every corner. Anna sat in the back, arms crossed, watching the world blur by. Tourists snapping selfies at Times Square, vendors hawking hot dogs, the pulse of New York that never quite synced with her own rhythm. Langston was quiet, tapping on his tablet, giving her space. Reed drove, eyes on the road, but she caught his glance in the rear view, assessing like he knew her type. They pulled up to a nondescript high-rise on Park Avenue, the kind that blended in with the banks and law firms. No flashy signage, just a revolving door guarded by a doorman who looked ex-military. Langston led her inside, past a lobby of polished marble and abstract art that screamed old money, to a private elevator. It shot up to the 40th floor, opening into what looked like a tech war room. Walls lined with screens, flickering data streams, analysts hunched over keyboards, the air buzzing with low chatter and the scent of fresh espresso. This is the nerve center, Langston said, gesturing broadly. Langston Global. Officially, we're in AI and cybersecurity. Unofficially, we handle problems the boardrooms don't talk about. Anna scanned the room, noting the exits, the security cams, the subtle panic buttons on desks. It felt like a command post, not unlike the forward operating bases she'd known in the SEALs. A young analyst, a kid in his 20s with glasses and a hoodie, looked up from his screen. Mr. Langston, we've got a hit on the robbers' comms. Encrypted, but we're cracking it. Langston nodded. Good. Ms. Carter here is joining the team. Briefer. The kid, his name tag read Tyler, swiveled his chair. Those guys at Lyciel? Not small time. Linked to a syndicate out of Eastern Europe, funneling dirty money through crypto exchanges. They've hit 3 spots in the last month. A gallery in Soho, a yacht club in the Hamptons, now your restaurant crowd. But get this, they were targeting specific patrons. Vance, his hedge fund's been shorting stocks tied to our competitors. And you, Mr. Langston, your name's on their list. Anna's hazel eyes narrowed. My name. Tyler pulled up a decrypted file on the screen. Grainy photos, intel dossiers. There she was, a shot from her SEAL days, blurred but unmistakable, next to profiles of Langston, Vance, even her parents at Carter Industries. You're collateral, or bait. Your family's got ties to defense contracts we've been bidding on. This isn't random. It's a play to disrupt the big leagues. Langston crossed his arms. We've traced the syndicate to a front company in Cyprus, but they're ghosts. Cyber attacks on our servers spiked last week. Ransomware, data leaks. I need you to lead a field op, infiltrate, gather intel, shut them down before they escalate. Anna felt the old fire stir, the one she'd buried under trays of caviar and customer sneers. But this smelled like more than corporate espionage. Personal, with her family in the mix. She'd cut them off for a reason. Her father's boardroom battles, her mother's society games, all laced with manipulation. If they were involved, no infiltration without recon, she said firmly. I need access to your databases, full schematics on the targets, and a team I pick. Langston smiled, that faint one that didn't reach his eyes. Done. Reed's yours. He's ex-Delta Force. Tyler here for tech support, and whatever gear you need from the armory downstairs. She nodded, already mapping it out in her head. But as she dove into the files, her phone buzzed again. Her mother's number this time. She silenced it, but the message preview flashed. Anna, we need to talk. It's about your safety and the family business. The room's hum faded as she stared at the screen. Safety, or strings. The syndicate's web was spreading, pulling in her past, her present. She set the phone down, focusing on the mission brief, but deep down she knew this wasn't just Langston's fight anymore. It was hers. And in the shadows of the city that never sleeps, shadows she knew too well, the real game was just beginning. Hours later, geared up in tactical black, Kevlar vest under a nondescript nondescript hoodie, comms earpiece, a concealed Glock. Anna stepped out into the afternoon sun with Reed at her side. Their first stop, a warehouse in Queens, flagged as a drop point for the syndicate's couriers. Tyler's voice crackled in her ear. Sat feeds show movement. 2 vans, armed guards. Be careful. Anna smirked faintly. Careful was for waitresses. She was back in the fight, and this time the VIPs wouldn't see her coming. The Queens warehouse loomed like a forgotten relic in the industrial sprawl. Chain-link fences topped with razor wire. Graffiti-tagged walls under a sky heavy with afternoon haze. Anna and Reed parked the SUV a block away, blending into the mix of delivery trucks and idling semis. She adjusted her earpiece, Tyler's voice a steady hum. Thermal scans show 4 heat signatures inside, 2 on the ground floor, 2 up top. No cameras visible, but watch for tripwires. Reed, with his Delta Force stoicism, handed her a suppressed pistol from the glove compartment. You lead, I follow, he said, his voice gravelly, like he'd smoked too many packs in too many deserts. Anna nodded, slipping the weapon into her holster. They moved like shadows, vaulting the fence and hugging the perimeter. The air smelled of rust and oil, the distant rumble of the subway vibrating underfoot. At the side door, a rusted slab with a padlock. She pulled a lockpick set from her pocket, a relic from her SEAL toolkit. 30 seconds, and they were in, the door creaking just enough to blend with the wind. Inside, the warehouse was a maze of stacked crates and flickering fluorescents, dust motes dancing in the beams. Voices echoed from deeper in, accented English, Eastern European, barking orders about the next shipment. Anna signaled Reed. Split up, flank them. He peeled left, she went right, her steps silent on the concrete. She rounded a corner and spotted the first guard, burly, tattooed, scrolling on his phone with an AK slung over his shoulder. Sloppy. Anna closed the distance in 3 strides, her arms snaking around his neck in a chokehold before he could react. He thrashed, but she held firm, his body going limp as oxygen fled. She zip-tied him, gagged him with a rag from a nearby workbench, and dragged him behind a crate. Tyler's voice crackled. 1 down. Second ground floor tango moving your way. Anna pressed against the wall, heart steady, the old rhythm back like muscle memory. The second guard rounded the stack, whistling off key. She struck low, a knee to the groin, followed by an elbow to the temple. He crumpled without a sound. 2 down. Upstairs, the voices grew louder, arguing about the Carter girl and Langston's interference. Anna's blood chilled. They knew her name. She ascended the metal stairs, each step calculated to avoid creaks, Reed mirroring her from the other side. At the top, an open loft overlooked the floor below. 2 men at a table littered with laptop, burner phone stacks of cash. One was wiry with a scar across his cheek, the other heavier with a shaved head and a pistol on his hip. Scarface was typing furiously. The boss wants her out of the picture. Family ties make her a liability. Anna's jaw tight. Family ties. This wasn't just about Langston's cyber war. It looped back to Carter Industries, her parents' empire of defense tech and shady deals she'd always suspected.